Governance, Administration and Finance Committee meeting. We have full committee members, and we welcome councillor observers as well. There's been no request for leave of absence. First off the list, we will look for a confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Martin. Seconder, Councillor Taylor. Any questions or any matters arising from the minutes? No? All in favour? Move the minutes. Thank you. So we have start items 5.1, 6.1, 6.3. I wish to unstar 6.1. Are there any other items to unstar? Councillor Doran.
Chair, so I have a question on 5.1, but also just when the start items change from the agenda to what's in front of us, it does leave a bit of confusion. So I'm wondering if we can get that cleared up in the future. Because 6.1 is not starred on the order of business in the agenda I've got, but it is on the piece of paper that's in front of us.
Yeah, yes. Could we just have a comment on that? On why it's starred on the run sheet?
Yeah, it shouldn't be. I think originally we did.
Oh, it's just an error.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So thank you for picking that one up. And so anyway, so 6.1 not starred, 6.2 not starred. And do we have anyone else who wishes to unstar something? Councillor Gates? 6.3 unstarred. So I will move 5.1. Oh, you did? Okay, everything's unstarred. Okay, let's start, and no conflict of interest declarations. Okay, Councillor Doran, 5.1.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at the forward planning schedule, meeting 869 by my count has 11 items, and it's quite full, and I know that sometimes it's unavoidable, but I just wanted to ask, because a few of these matters would require some consultation with councillors in the lead up to the matters coming towards us, and are the officers comfortable that they've left enough time to have that consultation window with councillors so that we can be properly informed prior to getting the information about those 11 items, given that 870 has only got 2 items as well?
Through your chair, talking to the strategy people and performance items, yes, I'm comfortable.
Would there be any issue with moving the safety and wellbeing update to the August meeting?
Through you, Chair, I think the GM of the area would welcome that.
Okay, cool. So let's move safety and wellbeing to 870. I think probably the rest need to stay. Any other questions, Councillor Doran? No? Okay, so we'll move that with that amendment. Okay, I'll move that. Seconder, Councillor Martin, all in favour? Great, thank you. Okay, so next item 6.1, Councillor Services Review, and we will start with a presentation. Thank you.
Chair, was it your intention to go into closed?
We'll have the, this is available and open for the public, so we will hold the presentation in open, but given that it is a staffing matter, we will then move to close. Councillor Young. If Councillor Young's looking good on the screen.
Councillor Young, is your middle name Berry?
I like it. I like it a lot. Let's hope we like the presentation as much as we like the the lineup.
Oh, thank you for that introduction, Councillor Patterson. And today's presentation is a summary of the Councillor Services Review. So for most of you, hopefully you're familiar with this content. But for those viewing at home, it's probably news to them. So as we've progressed over the last few months, we've looked into how demand and expectations have evolved and what different value propositions are available to keep the service sustainable, with the intention of strengthening what has worked in the past rather than replacing it. So as we go through this slide deck, there'll be some stats. I might sort of skip over those. You've got a printed copy in front of you, and we'll just work through the options that we've got available today. So what do we know about our customer base? So the people that contact our divisional officers, yourselves out in the public. We know that both population and elector numbers have grown steadily over time, increasing by 18.5% and 22% respectively in the last decade. So the data on the screen there and the data as we go through deliberately looks at the 2016, 2020 and 2024 dates. We do have dates and figures from 2025 as well, but particularly for those dates, they align with both the election cycle, so the most up-to-date figures from those elections in terms of electors, and it's also aligned with the census collection data periods. So obviously more residents in our community means more electors and more contact with councillors. And so here it's broken down by division, so 1 to 14, add them all up, and it includes the electors for the mayor. And it is noted that in 2020 the boundaries were realigned, so the figures for Division 3 in 2016, for example, are not the figures from Division 3 in 2020 beyond. So on this slide here, we can see how council requests have changed over time, over those same periods from 2016 through to 2024 plus 2025 on this slide. While there are year-to-year movements across the requests that come through each of your offices, there is a consistent upward trend which matches the growth in the community as the number of members, particularly after COVID, has grown. So it reflects a period as well, particularly from those post-COVID years where our customer contact channels are more accessible for members of the public, and they are established. So things like the Report a Problem app haven't necessarily reduced the volume of requests that come through councillors' offices.
Could I just ask a question on that one? When we changed the messaging on councillor officers' phones, so that before people are directly allocated to the, like you can say, do you want to report a problem or do you want to speak to councillor's office? Do you know where that is on that? Did that make a difference? Is that 2023 or?
That was only 2020, late 2025, mid to late 2025. So it's not directly reflected on this chart. That was only when we moved to the soft phones, the Microsoft Teams phones.
Okay. So it hasn't made much of a difference, really? No. Or do we not know whether that's made a difference?
To the chair, by far and large, the volume that we deal with is email correspondence. So it's not the phone calls or the walk-ins, it's yes, of course. Email correspondence.
Okay, thank you.
And so, as I mentioned in the past, the data that's on the screen here as well in terms of the volume that are coming through our offices, we know that there are varying degrees of complexity, and we also know there's significant follow-up. So whilst in 2025 there were 10,841 initial interactions, we know that there's plenty of subsequent interactions that happen beyond that figure, both internally and back with the customer externally. And we've got a breakdown here, which I won't dwell on for too long, broken down by the service requests and maintenance requests. And so this slide here gives you a bit of a snapshot of what we did last year in terms of our team supporting each of you. So we lodged 10,942 councillor requests, so whether they were service-based or maintenance-based. You all attended 89 council meetings, and there were 494 reports that came through our committee structure. We delivered 85 community events. There were 500 local not-for-profits supported through our grant program. We had over 1 million divisional newsletters distributed, not a small number. We had 625,000 emails sent and received just to our divisionally generic inboxes. So that doesn't include the correspondence that comes and goes from your own personal inboxes, but 625,000 emails were sent and received from our Division 1 at Gold Coast inboxes. We also, across all of your social media channels, have a combined following of 57,300 people, hopefully residents, but people. So what this demonstrates as well, on the left-hand side, we do have offices geographically spread across the coast. So Coolangatta in the south, Ormo in the north, Mudgeeraba to the west, and everywhere between. It also shows the range of activities that are supported in each of your offices. So there's governance requirements, maintenance requests, council meetings, event delivery, grants, reviewing and authoring correspondence, and your social media platforms that are all supported. And I think this slide sort of demonstrates or explains why the workflow maybe feels a bit different now to when it did when a lot of you were elected in 2020. It's sort of spread out, and I suppose the scope of the office and your roles has broadened over time. So whilst the data was very good and helpful to assist with the decision-making process today, hopefully, it was also really important that we worked through that qualitative feedback from yourselves and your teams and other stakeholders that we have frequent touch points with. So it was important to understand what was actually happening on the ground as well, because it's not always translated into the figures that are on the screen. And through that process, we sought feedback and we're really particularly interested in these 5 squares we've got here. So the overall service quality, responsiveness and availability of your team, the workload and demand pressures that they're experiencing in supporting you, the role clarity and scope, and then the consistency that's provided across all the divisions. So we also received feedback, particularly from the team, on capacity and resilience, the internal support services that are provided to each of you outside of our team, the out-of-hours support, so your weekend events and late-night neighbourhood watch meetings, the capability and skills of the team that's currently supporting you, as well as any suggested future improvements. We took that feedback on board as we progressed through the options that are presented a little bit later on. So generally speaking, the feedback was all very positive about the service quality, so the people that actually provide you the support, and we heard that consistently you valued the professionalism and reliability of that support that we do provide. But at the same time, both yourselves and our team did sort of share that you were feeling the impact of that increasing demand and at times that less consistent approach across divisions. So from all the feedback and the data, we've taken a bit of time to analyse the qualitative and quantitative information that was in front of us, and identified a few challenges that we think that could be resolved, and then opportunities that can be leveraged in addressing those problems. So the 5 key challenges that we identified were the growing and sustained demand, limited capacity to absorb peaks, expanding role scope, complex internal workflows, inconsistent experience across divisions. So what was interesting about these challenges is that they weren't about poor performance necessarily of the team or the services that were being provided. And they were structural in the way that we work, and driven by growing demand, broader roles and complex internal processes. Nice little action there. So that one's not intended to be called out in any particular way because of that, but the 5 opportunities that we did take away from the challenges were opportunities to standardise the ways of working, clearer role boundaries, data-informed service planning, stronger internal services integration, and improved capacity and backup. So we saw that there was a clear opportunity to modernise the ways that we work and clarify the roles and make internal support easier to access. And we talk about these opportunities and challenges a little bit further in terms of how we've practically sought to apply some changes. And so the 5 alternative approaches, which like I said, align with the challenges and the opportunities, were developed to address the challenges and opportunities. So they're grouped into 3 broad categories based on the type of change involved, whether that's redefining the support that's provided, reshaping the model that we work in, and reprioritising the work. The options are exactly that. So when we get to the discussion about the recommendation, they're options and they're designed to be flexible and not necessarily adopted as a whole package. So we want to make sure that we future-proof our service model, but we're also contemporary enough today that we're actually addressing the issues you're feeling right now. So as we go through each of the options in details on the next slide, we're obviously keen at the end to hear what you think about what we've presented. So in the report, option 1 talks to integrated service partnering, and there's 2 parts to that, both the administrative side of things and then the specialist support, which is currently already provided to councillors on request, but it basically strengthens the current embedded model. It makes the access to temporary support and specialist services clearer and more structured. And the intent is to reduce the ad hoc workarounds and make support more predictable, accountable and available. And those 3 phrases at the end there are probably the challenges that we've experienced in the past. And at the bottom of the slide there, you can see the little tick boxes of what we're looking to address and leverage from those opportunities and challenges. So option 2 was committee liaison. We're not progressing with that one as a recommended option today, but it did explore the extra governance and coordination support that committees, committee members, committee chairs may need in undertaking their duties in the chamber here today. It was intended to introduce targeted specialist support for chairs, deputy chairs, and or committee members, and the goal was to reduce the duplication and streamline the committee-related work that may not have been fully supported in the past. So option 3, again, not currently supported in our officer's recommendation. It was the additional divisional officer capacity in each of your offices. So talking about increasing the current two team members in each of your offices. It's the most direct capacity-based option, so it does deal with capacity issues immediately. It adds a third FTE, half an FTE, to address sustained workload growth, but doesn't address the internal workflows in isolation. So if this was adopted without considering the other options, we're not actually dealing with what we view to be the back of house inefficiencies that we think we can actually get some gains from without increasing the capacity within each office. So it is noted on this slide that it obviously has a financial impact, and that's important to note as well. So the other options are solutions or solving issues that don't necessarily require additional funding. This third option does. So option 4, divisional office flexibility. So
question?
Option 3 in our report is additional divisional office capacity, and it suggests adding a 3rd divisional officer. And option 4 is divisional officer flexibility, but it doesn't have any of that retitling or any information there. Sorry?
Option 3 is the same as mine. Yeah.
What am I looking at? Is this? Are you looking at the presentation or the report?
Sorry.
That's different. That's option 3.
Page 20 and 21.
It says expands baseline by adding a 3rd divisional officer. It doesn't mention a senior divisional officer.
think Councillor Gates is not talking about the title, but the points 1s and 2s underneath that.
Yeah,
The
I'm
summary
talking
in the
about
report.
Summary of option 3 and the summary of option 4, which are quite different on page 20 and 21.
That's fair.
Have
There's
I
no
got
comment. No, there's no comment about a senior divisional officer in the report.
And nor is there anything about a full-time senior or.
So that's got the word senior, this doesn't. That's it. That's in between.
So we'll go off what's in the report.
Okay.
Okay.
It was option 4 I was more worried about because that's not here at all, that stuff. That don't have
Right.
anything.
And again, we're going to go off what's in the report. So perhaps if we just skip that slide, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to.
If there's any questions about it, we can ask them later, but we're referring to what's in the report.
Well, I just wonder, the time of submitting the report has maybe some of this, the presentation a bit more recent. Is that why it's slightly different?
Through the chair, that's probably a fair assumption. I think that there were changes made from when this was first canvassed in our consultation to today.
Okay, so what's the advice from officers? Which ones should we be considering? The ones on the screen, which are done after consultation, or the ones in the report?
Through the chair, I'll answer that if you like. So the presentation is probably elaborates more on the options than the report does. The report is quite concise. They shouldn't be different, and acknowledge Councillor Gates said the word senior was missing, so I acknowledge that. But the presentation just goes into more detail, so it should be the same.
Papers are still papers.
So if they are considered the same, then we can go back and consider everything that's on the screen then, because the officers are considering what's on the screen to also be the same as what's in the report. Does anyone need to go back and look at that now, or we'll ask further questions later? Okay. Can continue.
Thank you. And I might just add to that real quickly. The presentation is really just sort of some suggestions, some really high-level thoughts on what could be achieved. But in terms of the recommendation, we're just talking about proceeding with flexibility of the divisional office. So it could look like this. There is still a lot more work to be done in the background to operationalise an outcome from today. So there'll be further conversations about what happens on the ground after today. We're just looking for the steer in the direction of the changes to explore further. So option 5, which is hopefully the same, talks to the council request process enhancements. So talks about how councillors engage and request services, both for yourselves in terms of internal services and also on behalf of residents, and how it flows through the organisation. So as part of this option, which is one of the recommended options, we are suggesting a bit of a stock take in the background, which shouldn't augment the way that your office operates. So it's more to do with once a request has been sent through to the organisation to triage an action. So we're looking to maybe get some efficiencies there, sort of cut down on some of the turnaround times and ensure that, there's no duplication of effort and that, requests are sort of closed out in a defined and structured way. I think we've got a question.
Councillor Taylor?
Thank you. And I'm just interested in that last process because I find a lot of times it's not our team following up, it's the actual organisation getting the response back to us and where the actual task is at. So I'm just trying to understand how an administration process will speed up what's happening further down the line.
Through the chair, maybe to answer that question, it's probably easiest to give an example of what that could look like. And so what we're thinking with this particular option is a bit of a matrix, maybe a single page, double-sided page that talks about the frequent request types that come through and have a really defined time timeline of how those would be administered in the background. So we do have a lot of that information already for maintenance requests, the requests that go through to actually have potholes fixed and graffiti removed. We know what those service levels are, but I think this will allow us to do a bit more of a deeper dive and understand and get the feedback from the organisation, the different areas of council on what those expected service levels are that are in place now, and then come back and see if they're meeting expectations of councillors as well. It's something that was useful in the past. It's sort of changed over time, but it was helpful, I think, to manage everyone's expectations, both residents who are emailing in, you can let them know what the expected turnaround time would be, but also means that you and your team know you don't need to be following up in a week if it's going to be 10 days. So there's a bit of work to be done in that space, and some work has already been done to progress this in the background. So that's probably what it would look like in practice.
Thank you. Is your presentation finished? Concluded?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for that. Given that this is an item that does relate to staffing matters, and I know there's questions relating to staffing matters, I move that we go into close. Oh, yes, certainly.
For the sake of transparency, my question doesn't relate to any confidential information. In the recommendation that is in the papers, it talks about a combination of the options potentially being recommended by officers. Is it still intended by that councillors can, coordinate elements that they may or may not want? There's still, the elements of, let's say, option 1, 4 and 5 being implemented. We may not want all of those. Each councillor might want a unique mix of those things. Is that power still nominally available to councillors to engage with your office?
Yes, through the chair, particularly option 4, we talk about the office flexibility. We want to make sure that we're enabled to work with each councillor on how they want to structure and resource their office in terms of the skills and the experience that you're looking for. Each division is different, each community is different, and there's different demands. So, for example, if you are looking for someone that can assist you further with event delivery or marketing communications or the like, we can work with you on how that looks in terms of a job ad or the successful candidate, what that option talks about, as well as the overall resourcing provided to each office. So currently it'll be 80 hours a week across the 2 people or 3 people, however the 80 hours is split, and we'd work with each office to determine what that split would be across 2 and 3 people.
So again, it's no secret, in my office I have 2 full-time equivalent employees totaling 80 hours, but there's 3 people who share those 80 hours. And the question I had related to option 4, where we've got this catalogue of role types in your presentation, and I'd want to have some oversight over that without wanting to direct anyone. I'm not wanting to direct you in any way, but I would hate to think that each councillor was forced to have a EA and a communications person if that's not what they wanted. And as long as there remains the power for a councillor to make some judgment calls about that, I think that's fine. But I wanted to do that in open.
So that makes sense. That's in open, and I think before we go into close, we're acknowledging here that when these resources were set up, since then there's been a 22% increase in demand on our staff's time and requirements, from the councillor requests that go through to the number of community members that we're representing. So that's kind of why we need to make sure this works. And flexibility of officers also, I believe, is intent in that presentation as well. But for more specific matters, I will move into close. So I'll move that. All in favour? Councillor Fowler, second. All in favour. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have a recommendation in front of us. I'm moving a change recommendation. Do I have a seconder for this amended motion, Councillor Taylor? Councillor, officers have been resourced and funded the same way for the last decade. And during that time, there's been a significant increase in population and councillor requests and demands on our office staff. We want to ensure that our staff are taken care of, able to do their jobs, and that there is a certain level of resources for the workload. Does anyone wish to speak against or for? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you. And first of all, I'd like to acknowledge our staff that work in the office. They do a really great job. It is a challenging job. We understand that the first resource that people goes to is either our service team or our front end office. So they've got to be acknowledged that the work they do. And as the city grows and the work that we do as a city, we're going through a city plan change at the moment, we do get hit with a lot more requests coming through our office. And obviously if there's changes to some services and we're not getting results that our residents feel, they come to us as local councillors. So I need to acknowledge that. And the other thing I need to acknowledge is our office staff and the work they do. And I think we've got to be mindful of that. There's many times in our offices that they're actually at their limits. There's times where they're not under stress as well. So I think the balance for me would be having the ability to have a divisional resource that I can actually help the resource management of my team internally. And we all are going to have very different offices and what they could look like, different divisions. But I think it's important that we establish what our resource is needed as a general through the organisation. We have a resourcing system that can cover while we have staff that's sick or going away. But it's also the ability to us as an office that can actually support the staff if we feel internally that resource requirements is required. And I think the divisional fund helps individual councillors make that decision based on the time of the year and what community projects are happening at the time. So I would encourage councillors to support our officers by supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. And in all the discussions on this matter, one thing that's really been very present for me is how much our staff are really valued by all the councillors here. So I just want to say that, and we recognise that they have a really difficult job. We signed up for a difficult job. They get the front of everything from the community. They have to grapple with the sensitivities of that. They've had to deal with change of communications processes through this organisation over the last few years, where their ways of communicating, their ways of going and getting answers for our community members has really changed, and they've just done it all in their stride. My staff currently are having to take on extra workloads just to meet the standard day-to-day, and I want to ensure that they are supported. They know that if they go on leave, they're not going to have a bigger workload when they come back. So that is the intent of this. I will note that on number 4, there isn't a change in terms of structure here, in terms of additional supports or within the organisation. That is not a decision for the elected wing to decide, but we note that there will be that work done internally by the organisation with a report to come back by the end of this year. So with that, all in favour? Thank you. Thank you. Did you wish to speak against, Councillor Gates? No, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Okay, we are on to 6.2. Woohoo! Are there any particular questions regarding 6.2? Okay, we have a presentation. Okay. Do we have any questions? Councillor Gates.
Thank you. So this recommendation adopts the attached council plan and council operational plan. I was just wondering, on page 65 of the council, and it's the council plan, where we haven't, oh, sorry, it's not 65, must be 67, sorry, 67, where we haven't met the targets for safe and sustainable travel. Why are we relying on old information there? Has there been new information? I was really worried about the walking percentage and basically how it is being calculated. And also there's a drop in public transport from 2 to 1.8% and a corresponding increase in vehicle use when we've got 50-cent fares. So I wondered if the officers had any background to help us understand why we're in this position.
Through the chair. So, Councillor, we didn't actually measure this. So this is the progress report. So obviously the council plan and the operational plan are set annually and we come each quarter. Some of our measures are not actually done every single quarter. It depends on the type of measure we have. This one is actually due in Q4. So this isn't actually have any change since last one. In terms of the actual information provided, that information comes from the transport area and they provide that insight for us.
How do they gather it?
There's different measures in this one. I'm not going to say that I know the exact way that they're measuring it. We can take that one on notice and bring it back.
I'm just interested in how those statistics are.
I can see the expert behind me, Councillor Gates. I may draw him in.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to be a pain. I'm just interested. How long have we had 50-cent fares? Does anyone remember?
2024, late 2024.
24.
Through the chair, there's a number of sources. This source will likely be the household travel data survey from last year. We also obviously get updates from DTMR and TransLink and whatnot on how they're progressing. But overall, we know that effectively we have a very high dependency on car travel, even with the uplift in light rail. We're looking at, I think, close to 80% in vehicle domination in terms of our 2 million trips per day. Around 80% are vehicles, 3%, as you can see, are basically public transport, and the balance is active travels.
And have we seen any improvement since the government reduced the 50 cent? This sort of, to me, looked like it had...
Yeah, through the chair, we've seen an improvement definitely in light rail, but we've also seen a lift in trips per day. So effectively, the gains we're getting there are being, absorbed by more and more road trips as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you. They were just matters of interest.
Okay, I would like to ask a question regarding the OSAT scores on page 73. That is a substantial decrease that we've seen in our overall customer satisfaction. I just wondered if officers would like to speak to that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, acknowledging that the OSAT score is reduced from 63 last quarter to 48. I should remind councillors we started using this measure back in October of 2024. October 2024. The baseline then was 55%. The average year to date for the 9 months in the current 25-26 year sits at 57%. So we are above that baseline, and we have targeted an OSAT of 60% back in that 2024 to achieve this year. So at the moment, 9 months in, we're 3% behind that 60%, and we do acknowledge that the score is very low, but I think some of the justifications provided in that commentary there, where we both talk from a micro and macro level, should be taken into consideration when reading this report.
Okay, I suppose that's just one for us to be aware of and to watch, because that is quite a substantial change. Any other questions on this report? No? Do I have a mover? Councillor Martin, seconder Councillor Fowler. You wish to speak to it, Councillor Martin? No? All in favour? Done. Thank you. Okay. 6.3, monthly financial report. Here comes our Chief Financial Officer for a presentation.
Chair, just confirming this one, we'll just take questions with the presentation for the quarterly budget. I think this one was unstarred by Councillor Gates for a question.
Okay, questions on this one as opposed to 7.1? Councillor Gates.
Are we able to discuss figures in open? Yeah. I'm not, as everyone knows, this is not my strong point, but on page 85, it suggests that there's been there's an expected forecast operating surplus of 10.2 million. And then elsewhere on this, it suggests there's an underspend on the capital budget of the same amount. So does one outweigh, is that where the surplus is coming from? No?
No, sorry, CFO, you go.
I'd love to understand.
Through the chair. So on page 85, the 10.2 million surplus that we're forecasting relates to the operating results, so your OPEX budget, whereas the capital budget is different. That's okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay, do I have a mover? Councillor Fowler. Second, Councillor Doran. All in favour? Great, thank you. For the next item, it's a closed session item, the March 2026 budget review. So I move that we go into closed for reasons related to the budget. Seconded, Councillor Wilkinson. All in favour? Done. Okay, so we have just been reviewing the March budget review. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Martin, seconder Councillor Wilkinson. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Martin?
Only to say that thank you for, I know there was a lot of questions there, and as we get into that final quarter, I think we're all acutely aware of just making sure that we're knowing where we land, and thank you for fielding so many wide-ranging, varied questions about the budget. Happy to move the item and look forward to some of those responses also being supplied before council.
Okay, we'll take the vote. All in favour? Great, thank you. 7.2 is a closed item. We have a thorough report that's been presented. I just wanted to check if there are any questions which require us to go into closed. Yes? Okay, so we'll move into close, and the reason for that is that it relates to the local government budget. So I'll move that. All in favour? Great. We thank our Chief Risk Officer for our fuel and supply disruption crisis update. Do I have a mover for the item? Councillor Doran, seconder. Councillor Martin, do you wish to speak to it? Councillor Doran?
Sure. Whilst we didn't take a long time with this matter, we have dealt with this in quite significant detail during special budget deliberations, and I'm confident that the expert team has assessed the risk and at both ends, the worst case scenario and the best case scenario, and I'm confident, and I think the councillors are as well, that the level that was interrogated of this potential risk to our budget during special budget has been appropriately mitigated, and I think we've accounted for it moving forward. Obviously, we all hope that everything gets back to what would be a pre-normal, but it is comforting that when we have an issue like this, that the city officers' expertise is at such a high level that they're able to provide us with the detail we need to make good decisions.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to it? No. All in favour? Great. Thank you. No other business, so I declare the meeting closed at 3:48. Thank you.